that time, self-identified conservatives were 28% in the exit polls. 4 years later, in the election of 1984, that we won almost 60-40, self-identified conservatives were 34%, 28, 34%. The country had moved from being, I would say, a centrist to a right-of-center country in those 4 years because people decided that they had been wrong and that what Reagan was saying about cutting taxes and limited government made more sense to them than what they thought only a couple of years earlier. They changed their minds and they moved the country significantly, measurably. You could prove it in the elections that followed, not only at the presidential level, but all the way down the line. And you can see it in the polling data that measured the cultural values of the nation. It was between 81 and 84 the country moved to the right based on the lessons they learned in the first term of the Reagan presidency. In the last election, 2008, 34% of the voters in the exit poll were self-identified conservatives. That number hasn't changed since 1984. Now, it happens that President Obama won about 52.6% of the popular vote. I think somewhat for the same reason that Reagan won in 1980. That is, they had a belly full of the Republicans and the president. We had a president at 25, 30, 32% approval, sometimes as low as 60% approval within our own party, which is shocking. We had 80% wrong track. I'd never seen a number like that. I thought 65 was supposed to be a terrible number. 80% wrong track. We had two wars that weren't popular. An economy that before September had consistently been not approved by the American public, even though objectively by all the traditional criteria of inflation and growth, jobs, it should have been popular. Nonetheless, 60-40 by and large for years, the public was not satisfied with the Bush economy. And then you had, of course, in September, the economic collapse, which was the final coup de grace to the Republican Party. And on top of that, we had a nominee who was probably the least liked major figure in the Republican Party. He was a gadfly. Gadflies are admirable, but they're usually not appreciated by the base of the party. He got in because we had a five-way split in the primaries, and he was able to get a rough plurality enough to. So we had a candidate who did not inspire the enthusiasm of many of our voters. And under all these circumstances, Obama was able to win. I was starting to predict that it was going to be, Democrats likely to win back in April before we even knew for sure whether it was Hillary or Obama. Because it just looked to me that the Democrats would have to completely throw it away. It was almost a lay-down hand for them, and they won. My fear was that with this economy, and with Obama seeming to be such an able talker and such an appealing fellow, that he might be able to replicate in the opposite direction what Reagan had done in 81 to 84 and convince the public that they were wrong to believe that relative low regulations, free markets, independence, enterprise, entrepreneurship are the means to a successful, prosperous, good life. And instead they need more protection. So, and that's why I'm so encouraged by at least the early signs that he is not winning that argument. The public judgment is beginning, it's not yet crystallized, it has to change, because for those of you who, like me, who are not convinced that we're out of the economic woods yet, if we had a double dip, if we have an L, depending on when real estate values bottom out, I mean, these could be hard times, even more than we currently have, or for longer than we currently have, and that could change the temperament of the public. But so far, and I think it's a vital issue for us to fight on, the right lesson seems to be being learned. And it's the one thing at a macro level. And it's interesting, by the way, why deficits are now working. Partially, it's because of the huge numbers, the stunning numbers, the $9.3 trillion of new debt. And that's a low number, because that's a number that assumes all sorts of things that the Congressional Budget Office is required to make certain assumptions when they get to their numbers. And that assumes things that won't happen. In fact, programs grow faster. And so the history is that what they predict is going to be a low number. So it's 9.3, maybe it's 11. It's a huge number, it's incomprehensible. But it used to be, when I was young, many years ago, that the only people who cared about a deficit were sort of Republican businessmen and women. It was a message that was delivered to that part of the public space. Most Americans, Democrats, the FDR people, didn't worry about deficits. That wasn't a matter of concern for them. Then Perot came along, and he started to appeal to people who had sort of been Republicans who were drifting into independence land. And then Newt stole that issue from Perot in 94, and we ran with it and got Clinton eventually to agree to a balanced budget in 97. And so you then had a broader level of still the right side largely of the equation caring about deficits. Then I think that the unlikely miracle, and something maybe we can thank President W. Bush for, is that because the Democrats were able to accuse W of irresponsible deficit spending for 8 years, whether or not, I'm not going to argue the substance. My friends in the Bush White House will make the argument that they were hitting numbers that everybody agreed on. But since that was being sold, the Democrats spent the last 8 years telling their electorate, the left side of the equation, the horrors of deficit spending, just in time for Obama to come along with a $9.5 trillion debt addition. So now suddenly, for the first time in my lifetime, as I would think, looking around just about anybody's lifetime in this room, it's a cross-cutting issue. It's not just a Republican issue. It's sort of like the environment is. About 2/3 of the country cares about having a clean environment and is not easily persuaded that we can give that up. Now, a good 2/3 of the country believes that deficits are dangerous and the magnitudes are dangerous. So I've never seen an issue emerge as powerfully to champion so many issues that we need fighting for in a way that's been set up for us. It's not what we've done. It's to a certain extent what the Democrats did in the last 8 years and what the current president and Congress are in the process of doing that gives us this tremendous communications opportunity. I want to switch gears a little bit, and before I forget it, I want to go to a tiny little mechanical point because I'm looking at the governor, and I don't want to forget it when my time runs out. So I've got it circled and 2 stars around it, and it has to do with organizing and the internet. And I'm going to make a contradictory statement. I had forgotten how powerful the process is of people getting together physically in a room as opposed to communicating on the internet, communicating in all the different ways we do. It's been the 1960s since I was out on the street and demonstrating. I was demonstrating for our side in the 60s. But the power of being in rooms, what happens when people actually come into rooms with people and talk about it face to face, is, I think a lot of us have forgotten who have been organizing, that there's no substitute for that. And the governor is entirely right that there is no substitute for that, and we should be doing a lot more of that than we have been in the last years, because it's generating a commitment that people walk out with viscerally. They can feel it. I mean, I can feel it when I walk out of the room. Your blood pressure has changed. The pulse has changed in your body, something you don't experience with the most exceptional ideas that you might read. And so, completely, yes, the governor's so right to eat into that. But there's another point, and something I'm beginning to learn. I am not a digital person, other than I've learned how to do the things I need to do to be able to function. But digital communication is becoming, and is going to become, eventually, the dominant form of communication. It's going to trump everything else. And I'm trying desperately to know enough to even understand how it fits in to a comprehensive strategy of communication and organizing. And so we've got some very smart people at our firm, there are other people. A lot of them have been looking at what Obama did, because Obama did something with digital communication that was very impressive.